All right, let's dive in. We've got some fascinating stuff to unpack today.
Looking forward to it.
So, from what you sent over, it's clear you're interested in sustainability.
Definitely a hot topic these days.
Yeah, and we've got chapter 1 of this book, Beyond Green. It's all about, crafting eco projects with permaculture, strategic insight, the whole shebang.
This chapter's great for laying the groundwork. Goes way deeper than just the go green stuff you hear all the time.
Right. Like, I thought I knew what sustainability was, but this book really expands on it.
How so?
Well, they define it as meeting our needs now. But without messing things up for future generations, it's not just about us.
Absolutely. It's a much bigger picture. And that's where the triple bottom line comes in.
Oh, yeah. They talked about that.
Environmental, social, A&D, economic sustainability. Got to have all three.
Like a three-legged stool, right?
Exactly. They used a great example, a sustainable farm using crop rotation. Helps the soil. So that's the environmental part.
But it also means more crops, right?
More crops, more profit. So it's good for the environment and the farm's bottom line.
So it's like win-win-win.
Exactly. Now, I'm curious, for you personally, which of those three, environmental, social, or economic, stands out the most right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for me right now, it's got to be the social side of things.
Interesting.
Yeah, like building systems that benefit everybody, not just a select few.
Makes sense.
But, okay, so the book, it goes even further. They bring up this whole concept of permaculture.
Now that's where things get really cool.
Right.
It's basically designing with nature as your inspiration.
Like mimicking the natural world.
Exactly. And they break it down into these 12 permaculture principles. Each one's like a treasure trove of ideas.
Oh, there was one that really blew my mind. Use edges and value the marginal, I think it was called.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, like in nature, the most productive spots are often those in-between areas, the boundaries. But how do you even apply that to a business?
Well, it's about seeing value where others might not. Think of a company that takes what would normally be waste, right? And turns it into a resource for something else. Suddenly you're not just eco-friendly, you're super efficient too.
Right. So we're not talking about living off the grid or anything. This is applicable to the real world.
Absolutely. And speaking of the real world, the book really stresses strategic business thinking for sustainability. Even gets into some pretty serious business school type concepts.
Yeah, I was a little intimidated by that part at first, to be honest.
I get it. But it's really about giving you the tools to make those eco dreams a reality.
Makes sense.
One tool they highlight is Michael Porter's 5 forces analysis. Sounds complicated, but basically it's about analyzing the competition.
They had a good example. It's a sustainable clothing line. One of the forces was the bargaining power of their suppliers, the organic cotton farmers.
Oh, right.
And it just made me realize, even if you have the best intentions, you got to understand the whole playing field.
For sure. If there are only a handful of organic cotton suppliers, they've got a lot of leverage.
Yeah. So the clothing line needs to strategize around that, maybe find more suppliers or build strong relationships.
Exactly. It's about being smart about sustainability, not just, idealistic.
Man, this chapter is packed with info. Triple bottom line, permaculture, business strategy. My brain is doing somersaults.
It's a lot to digest for sure. But that's what these deep dives are all about. We get to untangle these big ideas together.
And it really shows how sustainability, it's not just about feel-good vibes.
Right.
You need to be strategic about it.
Totally. It's not enough to just want to do good. You need a plan.
Right. And this chapter, it doesn't just leave us hanging with theories and stuff. It actually gets into how to apply these concepts.
Yeah.
In the real world.
Yeah. Remember that catch and store energy principle? They had this awesome example with swales.
Swales. Now, are we talking about those little dips on a golf course?
Not quite.
Yeah.
In permaculture, swales are these ditches dug on a slope, along the contour of the land. Okay.
And they're meant to slow down rainwater. So instead of just running off, it soaks into the ground.
Oh, so it's like creating little mini reservoirs.
Exactly. Working with nature instead of against it.
That's way cooler than a golf course hazard, I gotta say.
Right. And that's a big theme I'm seeing in this whole chapter, actually. This idea of resilience.
Resilience.
Building systems that can handle change, whether it's climate change or some crazy market fluctuation.
So how do we bring this all together? We've got the triple bottom line permaculture business strategy. It feels like a lot to juggle.
True. But think of it like baking a cake.
Okay. I like where this is going.
Your permaculture tools, Those are your ingredients. The business strategy, that's your recipe. And then the triple bottom line that tells you what kind of cake you're even making. You know, chocolate cake, vanilla cake. What are your goals?
I love that. Makes sustainability feel a lot less intimidating, for sure. But let's get back to those business tools for a sec.
Yeah. They mentioned SWOT analysis. I vaguely remember that from a business class ages ago. How does that play into sustainability?
SWOT analysis is great for getting a clear picture of where your project stands. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
SWOT.
Exactly. It's like a checkup for your project. Helps you figure out what you're good at, where you're vulnerable.
And where you can, like, improve.
Exactly. What are your strengths? Where are you vulnerable? What opportunities are out there? What threats do you need to watch out for? It's about being honest with yourself about the project's potential.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially with something as complex as sustainability. But it can't just be about spreadsheets and numbers, right? This book also talks about community engagement.
Oh, absolutely. Sustainability, it can't happen in isolation.
Yeah.
It's got to involve the people who will be affected by the project, like right from the start.
Because you can have the most eco-friendly, profitable plan in the world, but if the community hates it,
it's not going to work.
Exactly.
And they have some really good strategies for community engagement in the book, like town hall meetings, surveys, even participatory design, get people involved in the design process itself.
It's all about making sure your project is sustainable, not just like on paper, but that it actually works for the people it's supposed to help.
Right. Like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Sustainability, that's definitely a go together kind of thing. But okay, let's be real for a second. Sustainability projects, they need money.
Right. Yeah, good intentions can only get you so far.
Totally. And the book dives into that too. It has this whole section on different business models, revenue streams, funding strategies.
So like how to make these projects financially viable.
Exactly. It's not just about doing the right thing. It's going to make financial sense too.
I like how they phrase it economically viable. Makes it clear that sustainability, it's not just some side project. It needs to stand on its own 2 feet.
Totally. And they talk about aligning your revenue model with your sustainability goals. So it's not just about making money. It's about making money in a way that supports your mission.
You're actually amplifying your impact.
Right. And they go into all sorts of different approaches, like not just traditional grants, but things like social enterprise models, impact investing, even community-based financing.
Wow. It's like this whole new world of possibilities opens up. But how do we even know if all this is working? The book talks about measuring impact too, right?
That's where the rubber meets the road. It's about seeing whether your project is actually achieving what it set out to do. Are you making a difference?
So it's like accountability, basically.
Accountability, but also learning and improving. You figure out what's working well, what needs tweaking, and whether you're actually living up to those sustainability goals.
So even with the best plan, you still got to track your progress. Make sure you're on the right track.
Exactly. And that data you gather, it's not just for you. It's super valuable to share with funders, partners, the community. It shows them that you're serious about this, that you're getting results.
It builds trust.
Exactly. Transparency and trust.
It's funny. It just hit me that measuring impact kind of ties back to that permaculture principle we talked about earlier.
Which one?
Observe and interact.
Yeah.
It's not just about like setting a plan in motion and hoping for the best.
Right. Yeah.
It's about constantly checking in, seeing what's working, what's not, and being willing to change course.
Totally. Like a gardener tending to their plants.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention to what they need to adjust as you go.
Exactly. And speaking of adjusting the book, brings up another important element, communication.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just do good work.
Right.
You got to be able to talk about it in a way that gets other people excited.
Absolutely. You got to tell the story of your project. Make it something people can connect with.
So how do you do that? What makes a sustainability project story like truly compelling?
It's all about the human element, Instead of just spitting out facts and figures, tell the stories of the people whose lives were changed because of this project.
I like that.
Highlight the struggles, the triumphs, the ripple effects. Make it personal. Make it relatable,
So instead of saying, we reduced carbon emissions by X%, you're saying, this family now has cleaner air to breathe because of what we did.
Exactly. Suddenly, it's not just numbers, it's real people's lives.
And that's way more powerful.
Way more powerful. And the book has some great advice on how to craft these narratives.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Use visuals, photos, videos, even illustrations. Anything to bring your story to life.
Makes it more engaging.
For sure. And don't forget about the voices of the community. Let the people who are benefiting from your project tell their stories firsthand.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because it's their story. And one more thing. Remember to tailor your message to your audience. What works for funders might not work for community members.
Right. Different strokes for different folks.
Exactly. It's all about communicating effectively. So yeah, it's not just about what you do, it's about how you talk about it. A good story can really spark a movement.
It can inspire others to get involved.
Totally. And that brings us to the final thought-provoking question from the book.
Hit me with it.
They say that really integrating sustainability into a business can actually give it a competitive edge.
Interesting.
So the question is, how can companies make sustainability a core part of their identity, not just some marketing gimmick?
That's a big one. It's not just about being less bad anymore.
Right. It's about totally rethinking how you do business, making choices that are good for the planet, good for people, and yeah, good for the bottom line.
It's a challenge for sure, but it's also a huge opportunity.
Totally.
Yep.
It's about innovating, creating value, and building a future where business success and sustainability go hand in hand.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into the foundations of sustainability. We covered a lot of ground today.
We did. From the triple bottom line to permaculture to strategic business thinking.
We hope this gives you a good starting point for your own sustainability journey, whatever that may look like.
Whether you're an entrepreneur, a community leader, or just someone who wants to make a difference.
And remember, sustainability, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
It's about learning, adapting, and finding creative solutions.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing for a better future. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.
And until next time, keep on diving deep.